Welcome to the Montana Innovation Hub. I'm Julia Bryant, the Brand and Marketing Project Manager for the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the Office of Indian Affairs. For this session, I'm joined by Shelby Thorlacius, the Digital Marketing Manager at Big Sky Resort. And today we'll be discussing digital marketing during this pandemic.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much for the intro.
Absolutely. So Shelby, tell us a little bit more about your background and your position at Big Sky.
So as you mentioned, I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Big Sky Resort, and I oversee all of our email marketing efforts, and our social media strategy. It's a really wonderful and unique blend of my passion for the outdoors and my professional life as a marketer. I definitely think I'm very lucky to be able to blend the two while working in the ski industry.
Yes, I can't imagine. Big Sky has such beautiful open skiing, and you guys get tons of snow. So it must be nice to be able to take a break and hit the slopes in between your working hours.
I love a good ski break.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Especially on a Saturday.
Yes. So there's a famous adage that states, when times are good, you should advertise. And when times are bad, you must advertise. Many businesses right now are cutting costs in this time of uncertainty, especially in their marketing budgets. So why is now not the time to make that move?
Yeah, that's honestly a great quote. I think for the number one reason, and I think this is the most important, marketing is the revenue driver of business. Number two, I would say online shopping is on the rise. And three, Montana as a state is just more popular than ever. So marketing as a business driver and a revenue driver. Marketing messages help drive awareness to products and services, and it makes it possible to garner new customers and engage existing ones. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like really important to keep your marketing and your messages strong, and consistency strong as well. And as far as online shopping, I think now more than ever, people are shopping online. That's a trend even before COVID hit. And so now we're just seeing increased traffic to online retailers, people just generally searching online. And we've seen many retailers adapt to this new norm in this like COVID era, to make life easier for their customers with the curbside pickup or delivery or online ordering. And they're all adaptations with the customer first. So the customer in mind, which is honestly just like a great trend to see. And I think it's going to carry over beyond the pandemic. And then additionally, with the popularity of our state and our wide open state spaces, we're just being looked at a lot more than ever before, whether that's people moving here or people coming here on an extended vacation. There's just more interest in Montana now more than ever.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think Montana is seeing such drastic increases in population right now as people are choosing to relocate to our state. I think we're seeing a lot of creativity, as you mentioned, for businesses that are moving online or finding new ways to engage with their customers online, which has been really wonderful to see, throughout this time. So if businesses have pulled back from marketing efforts, though, what are some of the most effective ways that they can re-engage with their customers digitally?
Yeah. So there are two channels that I think are really beneficial to re-engage with existing customers or even just talk to new customers. And they're two what I would call organic channels. So really low cost, if like no cost in some ways. So email is one of them, and then social media is another. I think email is a great channel to re-engage with current or lapsed customers. And I mean, really depends on how large your email database or your email list is at this point in time. But I just think it's a really effective way to reach people who've already raised their hand and said they want to hear from you, and they're interested in your product or your service, and they've already given you their email, their information, their data. And as far as social media, so I think that social media is another great way to engage your community. And you can do that by sharing like educational content about your business, updates to your business, new items that you might have, or new services, any helpful tips that might like come along with your business. Like, just like that would like help a customer like use your product or your service, or understand your product or service better. And even doing like maybe like a weekly customer or employee appreciation post or spotlight to just like help re-engage your customers. I've been seeing some smaller businesses do employee and customer spotlights, and it's just a really like wonderful thing to see that like helps create community around your business.
Yeah, and it also kind of adds a face to the name, right? You can associate that person with that company, and makes you sort of feel a part of that family in some ways too. I always like it when they do that as well. Well, I appreciate that you brought up email. I think that email strategy is one of the is an often undervalued marketing tool. But let's dive into email a little further. Why don't you share why you think it's such a relevant strategy more in depth?
Yeah. So email is really cost effective. In a lot of cases, it's like less than a cent to send an email, like 0.02 cents to send an email. So just a really cost effective channel. And like I mentioned before, your email database or your like customer list, there are already people who have said that they want to hear from your business, and they're looking for specific business updates or promotions or that helpful information. And ultimately, email is just a really great revenue driver. So engaging with your audience in a meaningful way on that channel is a great way to build trust and brand loyalty.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more on that. So as a business, sometimes with email, you hear of issues, especially when you're not seeing your customers engage the way you want them to through email. Usually this is due to, incorrectly targeting your audience, or a failure to grab the audience's attention. So that leads me to my next question, which is, how do you ensure your headline grabs their attention and makes your email stand out within a busy inbox?
Yeah, that's like the $1 million question too,
right?
And I think like as marketers or business owners or communicators, we don't want to come off as like spammy. And so subject lines that tell your audience what your email is about in a really succinct way. But I also recommend A/B testing. And I love testing because it allows you to get to know what your audience or your customers react to, and what performs best. And the more you can test, just the more you can learn about your audience.
Yeah, I think especially right now, as we are getting just overwhelmed by spam emails and sales by large businesses, large corporations. A small business kind of making their way through that crowd is super crucial. And I agree, by by continuing to go back and test to see what actually works with your particular audience, since everyone has different audiences that they're trying to reach out to, what draws them in, I think that's incredibly effective. So you brought up, going back and analyzing, making sure you're looking at the data. Let's talk about measuring the effectiveness of a marketing campaign. So in your opinion, what are some of the main key performance indicators businesses should be paying attention to for their marketing strategy, especially around email?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on the campaign, and it really depends on like what action you are looking for. Like on social media, that you may have a video, and so the key performance indicator of that video might be video views or how long somebody has watched a video. It might be engagement on a social post, how many likes or comments and positive reactions you've seen. It may be reach if it's more of an awareness-based campaign where you're simply just trying to get awareness about your product or service to as many people for as low of a cost as you can. As far as email goes, I think, it depends on the email, it depends on the campaign. But I think to start off with, open rate is a great metric to use just to gauge the interest in your message in particular, or your promotion. When thinking about open rate, we need to ask the question, do our customers really find value in this information? And is it from a trusted source, or do they see it as spam? And I think with open rate, and then like moving into a click-through rate, which is people moving from your email and clicking onto your website, is important to know how many people are willing to take the next step and make an action on your website. And I just want to make a note that with click-through rate or with open rates, we, depending on the industry that you're in, or like there may be the best open rate that we might see on some emails is like 20 to 25%. Or the highest click-through rate that we might see is like 3%. And so just like thinking about like, that's just like a quarter. So the more targeted, the more personalized you can make emails, the higher you're going to see an open rate, the higher you're going to see a click-through rate. And, but I mean, I think if you're seeing open rates around like 20, 18%, like don't get down on yourself. Like that's great. So, it just like it really gets down to getting to know your audience and serving the message that is best for that audience at that specific time.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I think there's a lot of misconception around what's a successful campaign and what's not. And I think that really goes back to the business's goals and making reasonable goals. I mean, if you're putting out an email every other day, which is a lot of work, but if you're putting out something every other day or multiple times a week, even multiple times a month, and still meeting those guides, as you brought up, 25% open rate, you should understand that is still significant and is considered a success with how many people are actually opening it. And you can dive in further, right, to see if it's a specific segment of your audience that's actually the ones opening it each time. And then go back to your A/B testing and try to reach this other audience that maybe isn't opening it. Maybe you need to try a different message, as you brought up. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was great.
Yeah.
So you have your messaging, but how do you get your audience onto email? What's the best way to increase your audience email database? And what does that process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So growing your email database, digitally, there are a few ways that you can do that. like through your website as a sign up button or through social. There are options on like Instagram and Facebook to have a sign up button. It can even just be as simple as a sign up list at your business, like physically, like at your business, or like during the checkout process, a checkbox, sign up for our newsletter. And those could be just like simple tactics to help grow your email database. And I think also helping guests understand like the benefits of being part of your newsletter, like your club,
Yes.
the inner circle. What benefits does that give them? Does it allow them maybe early access to a product or service, or does it allow like specific discounts because they've signed up for your email list? And it's all just depending on what works for your business and exactly like what your goals are. But there could be like really, really wonderful ways that email could help support those goals.
Yeah, actually this week I signed up for a newsletter through a business I really like, a small business out of Butte, Montana, 5518 Designs. And they immediately sent me an email that told me their value proposition. What can I expect from this newsletter? They promised to respect my time. And they said, since I signed up for the newsletter, I'm entered into a contest to win one of their products. And I just thought it was really well done. It was instantaneous. It's not every single email will be like that. But it made me feel like I made the right decision in signing up. And I know exactly what I'm getting by signing up. So as an example, I felt like that really drew me in and kept my loyalty with the company. So customers are demanding more from communication right now, from companies with communication. They want more authenticity. They want more engaging content. So what are some key strategies a business should use to gain customer trust with their brand?
I love that example that you just shared, because I think it touches on like the transparency of an email or a newsletter. Like, this is exactly what you're getting now that you signed up with us. And I truly believe that transparency and consistency are like the key players in building a strong customer relationship. To me, transparency and honesty are the most important building parts to trust. And the reason I think it's important is because once a customer trusts your brand, they go from being just simply a customer to being a brand advocate. And it takes them to another level of feeling like they're part of that inner circle. Additionally, like consistency in our messaging, like we were talking about, like 20 to 25% open rates, like 3% click-through rates. Those seem low, but it's important that like we keep consistent messaging, because you might not hit somebody at the right time. Doesn't mean that like we need to go overboard with messaging. Definitely don't want to be spammy, but just consistency with our messaging, consistency with brand voice, that just helps customers keep your business in their consideration set and top of mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think consistency is so important. And I'm going to go, a little away from some of our questions that are next, and just kind of dive into that a little further and ask more around if you're a company that has multiple people that are within your communications department, or maybe the owners are also helping your communication manager. What are the most effective ways to keep that consistency with a voice? I mean, I know that you can develop personas, or you kind of have a guideline, a brand guideline around your voice, and that's kind of consistent. What in your opinion, what are the best ways to go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's sometimes can just be a lot of stakeholders in the brand messaging, which can like sometimes feel like really overwhelming and like it can fuzzy things. But I think you're absolutely right with like brand guidelines and like really like nailing down like simple things like how do we want to capitalize our subject lines? How do we want to capitalize headlines? And like, how do we refer to like what like person tense do we use? Do we use like first person or third person when we're talking in certain channels? Do we say you, like this is for you from us? And so really just like nailing down those brand guidelines and making sure everyone's on the same page with just like all the nuances of the English language and how you're speaking to your customers.
Yeah, I agree. That's so great. And that's something all small businesses can really develop into their marketing plan, or should develop into their marketing plan if they haven't yet. Is not just your logo, your color, your font, but it's also your voice, and really diving into what that voice looks like. And that also plays into your strategy for social media. So let's dive into social media and around consistency there. So what are some ways that companies can be more consistent on posting frequency on their social media channels?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because as far as like as social goes, like it really does depend, and I think algorithm changes, and keeping current on algorithm updates is really important. For some channels like Instagram, for example, or Twitter, we see very active users, very active accounts that are posting like multiple times a day. And that may work for that specific account. But it really all just depends on the content that you're able to create and build, because it takes a ton of time. It's a lot of effort. It's money. And so my recommendation would just be like, don't overextend yourself. Don't feel like you need to create a ton of content just to like be there in the conversation. Create content that's going to be engaging. And if that means like posting once a day, posting every other day is a better cadence, then I would follow that versus feeling like, yeah, I have to post 3 times a day, but you're not getting a ton of engagement on it. Moving that post frequency down helps with engagement and helps people just like feel more authenticity from your brand. Then I think that's the winning strategy.
There are so many platforms for companies to utilize as a means of communication. And as you brought up, time, we have to be cognizant of how much time we're spending on these platforms, and time is money, right? So that being said, should companies engage on every channel or be highly engaged on the applications that target their audiences specifically?
That's a great question too, because I think with the rise of TikTok, we may feel the every channel, but it's my personal belief that we just shouldn't overextend ourselves with a ton of different platforms. We're talking about like the time and the effort to create that engaging content for each of those platforms. TikTok has a specific like method for how those videos are created and how people engage with them, and like the trending videos that are like just so fleeting. And that may work for your business or it may work for your service, but it may not. And so I think finding what social platforms work best for your business, and then create a strong presence on those specific platforms. Between like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Pinterest and YouTube, and they all just require those consistent posting cadences and engaging content. And it's hard to create content for each platform as often as we may like. And so I think just sticking with what makes sense for your business and just creating a strong presence on those few select platforms, or maybe you are on all of them, and that's great too.
More power to you if you are. Well, you brought up TikTok, and that actually leads into my next question. Can you give our viewers just a quick rundown on social media usage among user generations? Especially with as many applications as there are out there, there seems to be age-generated responses to each one. So can you give us a quick overview?
Yeah, so like age breakdowns for each platform. So right now we're seeing a lot of Gen Z on TikTok, millennials too, but a lot of Gen Z, and then we're also seeing a lot of like millennials and Gen Z on Instagram. Those are like the majority. Not to say that there's not older generations on Instagram as well, but I think where the more mixed bag is of everyone from like honestly like 13 to 65 plus is on Twitter and Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen dramatic increases on age on Facebook, and I really find that fascinating. Like your grandparents are on there, and they're talking and they're engaging with their friends on Facebook. It's really become kind of an all age group melting pot of sorts, and businesses that used to think, I don't need to be on Facebook because my demographic is much older. Now they're realizing, no, I should be on Facebook because that's where they all are. They're all chatting on Facebook. They're looking at pictures of their grandchildren. They're engaging with their family there, and it's an opportunity for them to really communicate with them directly. So I find the age demographics just so fascinating on each application.
Yeah, and like those are like general like age groups too, and like your business or like service, like you may see different ages and demographics gravitating towards your specific account, and so it's just important to look at those analytics and like look into that data and just see like, oh, like maybe it is like an older demographic on Facebook, but maybe I'm seeing a much younger on Twitter. Like it's like those are pretty general, but you might see something more specific to your product or service or your business.
Yeah, and as you're working through paid ad campaigns, you'll be really targeting that audience, right? So you'll actually get to see the data from that. So it is becoming increasingly competitive to reach new leads on social media, which is why people are, really investing into paid ads. What are your thoughts on paid ads, and why should businesses continue to push or invest into paid ads?
Yeah, and especially like we were talking, like now more than ever, like like putting some dollars in your marketing strategy, and like there's not a one size fits all marketing strategy or marketing budget, but I think we're all familiar with paid ads in one form or another, whether that's like print or even like the old example of you look at a pair of shoes online and they follow you around for weeks, and so it can be really daunting to enter the world of like paid advertising. I think social is a good place to start because it is pretty cost effective, and it's an easy place to test at a pretty low cost. There's other layers that you can add in as well, such as search or display, which I think are super beneficial, particularly search. For these layers, I would honestly like think about enlisting an ad agency or some contract support. It's like we're talking about earlier, like algorithm changes and platform changes, and agencies, that's what they're there to like keep up on, are those changes and ways to really optimize your paid strategy to get the most bang for your buck, really. I've had great success working with agencies because I learn a lot from them. They're also generally willing to work with your specific budget to help provide a return on that investment. And on top of that, it's just hard, like I was saying, to keep up on all the changes, plus operating a business. And so I just think that agencies they offer a reassuring level of guidance that can be pretty invaluable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, especially as you brought up with the changes in algorithm, and it happens all the time, and just the updates to the different social channels in new emerging applications. It's nice to have someone who that's their whole profession is learning and staying up to date on what's new, what's trending, and how to re-engage. And sometimes you need that external perspective, because when you're in the trenches of your own company, it's hard to see that perspective at times.
I completely agree. It's so nice to have a fresh perspective and somebody even like pushing you to try something that you wouldn't have thought you would want to try. Like maybe TikTok, like maybe there's like an ad agency that's like pushing to like place ads on TikTok, or even just like expanding your search keywords, or helping you come up with new keywords for your search, like your paid search. It can just be really helpful to have that outside perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So social media platforms you're saturated with influencers, as you know. When is an appropriate time to use an influencer to market your business? And how can you create an authentic experience with your influencer?
Yeah, this is another great question too. Because influencers are like, they've just been like such a touchy, like, do we use them? Do we not use them? Like, what's the benefit of using an influencer? Do we really see a benefit? And I think like using an influencer, or like in a moment that when they fit your brand, and when they can help you create new content, like a blog, or create new photo content or video content, and just making sure that it's a two-way street in a partnership, I think is the most important. Like, we don't want to just be giving things away for free, like our products or services, for an Instagram post. Like, I think seeing some like physical assets in return will help prove like the best ROI, or return on investment, with influencers.
I know now the influencers actually have to put that it's a paid ad if you physically are paying them to promote your product or service. What are your thoughts on that? Like, does it feel less authentic to your audience that an influencer is pushing a product but it's paid, versus creating a relationship with an influencer and it not being a paid ad?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because like I think influencers have this like really unique community, and this really unique relationship with their community. And in a lot of cases, like if that is like an authentic enough relationship that they have with that, like with their audience, their audience may not care that it says sponsored, and they may like trust that like this influencer isn't going to sell or advertise a product or service that they don't truly believe in. And so I think really just getting to know your influencer, and like like watching like what's the engagement like on their platform. Do they have 200,000 followers but like a low engagement on their posts, or do they have high engagement but maybe only like 50,000 followers, which is huge? Like, so it just, I think really taking a deeper dive at what's the relationship that this individual has with their community, and is it authentic and real?
Yes. Yes. For Big Sky Resort, obviously you have world-class skiing. You guys have fishing up there during the spring and summer. Well, sometimes in the spring. You have a gorgeous river up there. So visitors. Oh, and golfing. Visitors come from all over the world to partake in the outdoors of Montana with your resort. So, as far as influencers go, have you reached out to people to come and visit? Has it been more of an invite, or does Big Sky Resort actually use influencers to help kind of push and promote what you have to offer up there?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So we generally, like, as far as influencers go, it's we're less searching for influencers, and people are more like coming to us, asking if we can host them, or vice versa. And so we are pretty selective with who we work with. Like I was saying, we generally only work with influencers or blog writers, really, who have a connection in some form to an ability to write about Big Sky Resort and like ensure that is like something searchable within Google, or that their audience is now like learning about like travel tips in Big Sky.
Yes.
And so really just like the search engine optimization is what we're looking for with a lot of blog writers. If people are searching for like best things to do in Big Sky, that those blog writers that we've hosted will come up as a higher search option.
So this has been a fantastic Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. I think just as a feeling of conclusion, can you share some key takeaways to our viewers on how a business should approach an effective digital marketing strategy?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked for a summary, because I do think that we've talked about a lot, and so I did create a little PowerPoint and a little slide, and so I came up with really 4 tips to help any business owner with some digital marketing right now. And number 1, I think, is just focusing on the organic content, email and social. 2, we didn't really touch on this, but keeping your review sites and business listings updated on places like Google My Business and Yelp and TripAdvisor. The reason I say keeping those listings updated is just it's just like a great guest service for if somebody is searching your business and they see your hours and they go to your business, but you're closed. So just making sure that your hours are updated, your address is updated, your phone number is updated. So it just makes it easier for your customers to get in touch with you. And then 3rd is focusing on your customer database growth for your email marketing. And then lastly, creating a paid media strategy. So I just want to note that these are all like pretty tactical strategies. And like I was saying earlier, there isn't a one-size-fits-all marketing plan or a budget. So when you're thinking of these strategies, I want you to keep in mind the theme that we've really been touching on during this conversation with Julia, is really just like sharing the authenticity and community building. So no matter what, the quality and the authenticity of your content will be the most important, and it's just going to help you build stronger relationships with new and existing customers. So, I mean, really, like, at the end of the day, just have fun with it. Be creative, and really just like get excited about promoting your business and building stronger relationships with your customers.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shelby. We appreciate you joining us and sharing your expertise around this subject.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been such an honor to be here and being able to talk with you.
All right. Thank you.